Plants are terrible at communicating. To tell you they don't have enough water, they die. To tell you they have too much water, they also die. You know what is good at communicating? Numbers. So let's make our plants make numbers. I have a few potted plants, and I'd like to keep them alive, but I also don't want to think about them very often. When I start thinking about automation, my first stop is always Home Assistant. Home Assistant is basically a central nervous system for my house. Every sensor, switch, and smart device reports in, and Home Assistant decides what happens next. It lets a lot of independent smart devices stop being independent and start being useful. I run Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi, which makes it cheap, quiet, and easy to leave running forever. Next, I have to figure out a good way for my plants to get their status to the world. I've seen enough YouTube videos to know that the answer is always RGB LEDs. And I already had this string of lights, so I'll use those. Next, we need something to control the lights and interact with Home Assistant. For this, we can use WLED running on an ESP32. WLED is an open source firmware that you can flash on a bunch of different devices. Home Assistant has full WLED support. It can detect WLED devices automatically, and they can talk to each other to share settings and status. To flash WLED on the ESP32, we just navigate to install.wled.me, plug in our ESP32, and the installer does everything else. It even connects the ESP32 to Wi-Fi. If it connects on the same network as Home Assistant, you can either click here to add it to Home Assistant, or you can navigate to Home Assistant, where you should see it listed as one of the detected devices. Next, we'll solder our ESP32 to the LEDs by connecting the communication line from the LEDs to GPIO 16, which is marked as RX2 on this board. The ESP32 runs on 5 volts in, and my LEDs need 12 volts, so I also have a regulator that converts 12 volts to 5 volts. I connect the 5 volts to the ESP32, 12 volts to the LEDs, and make sure the grounds are connected so nothing catches on fire. Once all that's done, we should be able to plug in power and see the LEDs light up for the first time. You can use the WLED web interface to do all kinds of things. Feel free to get distracted here playing with all the insane settings and colors you can imagine. Once you're done goofing off, we'll need to set up the LEDs into 3 segments, one for each plant. My string has 50 LEDs, so I'm going to split them into 3 groups of 15 and leave a few in between each group, so that I can space them out later. Next up, we need a way for the plants to talk to Home Assistant. This is a Veggie Hub. It's made specifically to log data like this. It has Wi-Fi connectivity, and Home Assistant is already set up to talk to it. To set it up, we'll first need to connect some sensors to it. This is a VH400 soil moisture sensor. It's a capacitive sensor, so it doesn't get confused by soil mineral content, and it won't electrocute your plants. This is important because plants don't like to be electrocuted. We connect the sensors to the Veggie Hub, then power it up. It will start blinking red, since it doesn't have a Wi-Fi connection. So, we'll need to connect to the Wi-Fi access point that it creates, and give it the Wi-Fi login info. Once it's connected, we can go back to Home Assistant, and we should see the Veggie Hub waiting for us. If setup doesn't work, make sure it's awake. The Veggie Hub defaults to battery mode, so it goes to sleep after a few minutes. I'm going to be powering this with a power adapter, so I'm going to change the settings so it stays awake. We'll also change the sample rate and update frequency. I'm going to set it for some pretty fast updates for testing, but normally we can keep this a lot lower. Once an hour should be plenty, since plants are lazy and things don't change very often. Now that we have the data coming in from the plants, we can go get Home Assistant to direct the data where we want it. We're going to create a template sensor, which just tells Home Assistant that we want it to bring in the data, modify it, and then make that data available as another sensor. The values from the Veggie Hub come in as raw voltage, so we want to change that data into a more useful soil moisture percentage. There's a specific data transform that does this accurately, and I don't recommend typing this from memory, so I'll include it in the description and you can just copy and paste it. Now that we have a sensor that's outputting the soil moisture directly, we'll set up another template to turn that value into a level that our lights should display. By the time the soil moisture reaches 0, the plant would be totally dead. So we wanted to find a range of values to show us how comfortable the plant is. It took me a minute to get all this working the way I wanted, but I'll put it in the description so that you can just copy and paste that too. Next, we just need to set up an automation that triggers when the state of the plant comfort changes. and then sets the intensity of the segment to the plant comfort level, then sends that status to WLED. And that's it. That's all you have to do. We could just pile all the LEDs on top of the plants, but I'm going to try and class things up a little. I designed a platform that the plants can sit on, which holds the LEDs under each plant like a health bar. Now, I do own a 3D printer. I love my 3D printer. But sometimes, and please don't tell the other nerds I said this, a 3D printer is not the right tool for the job. Since printing something this size would take a month, I used a table saw and some scrap wood instead. I used a 1/2-inch Forstner bit to drill holes for the LEDs, and it turns out that straight lines are hard. This was a surprise, but I don't think the plants will mind. I painted the platform black to increase the coolness by 80%. Then I called it good enough. Now we can stuff the LEDs into their new homes, put the platform in place, add the plants, add the sensors, and we're in business. Nothing says responsible adult like color-coded houseplants. Now I know that this is a very specific setup, but these same pieces could be used for all kinds of more serious applications. This could be a monitor for the moisture and temperature in a greenhouse, it could keep track of your garden, or even give you a direct line to your prized giant pumpkin. Now that the system works, I don't have to think about watering anymore. Was it a lot of effort just to avoid watering plants? Maybe. But the important thing is that it works, and I don't have to think about it anymore.